evening and welcome to Look North from Kellingley Colliery tonight, which today became part of our industrial heritage. Today we witnessed the last miners to come out of the last shift at this, the last deep coal mining pit in the country, now closed.
Now think of Yorkshire, what springs to mind? Coal, of course. They used to call it black gold. Millions of tons of it. Sadly, they don't do that anymore. Coal, of course, helped build our empire. It shaped our landscape. And for me, the communities built something special as well. They contributed to that Yorkshire grit, determination and humour. So what's the last day been like today? Well, our business correspondent, Danny Hewson, can tell us.
Dawn at Kellingley Colliery. The last shift of the UK's last deep pit missed nature's show. They were already underground, cutting coal for the very last time. All miners here had been dreading this day, and tears have been shed, though mostly in private.
I've been awake most of the night, but I've been very tearful this morning.
You never thought this day would ever happen. When I first started here 41 years ago, you never thought it was going to show.
And this was the moment it ended. A blur of orange, a chorus of voices, all smiling.
That was the last piece of coal mine. I let the driver pick it up and pass it to us in the bag. Very emotional for them all. Very emotional. A lot of good lads finished today. I hope there's people out there that realise, employers, that there's some good lads to take on out there. The best in the world. Hard working, honest, durable. What more could you ask of people? 38 years when you're at one place, you're working with the same people more or less. You become attached to people, you become attached to the place, you've got to feel a duty to look after them.
A few tears today.
Oh yeah.
A couple of drinks later.
Oh, definitely.
They won't be the last men underground. In fact, another shift has already gone down, making safe equipment, putting things to bed. But they won't be cutting coal. That is done.
Even after the last coal has been cut, it'll take about another 24 hours for it to be processed and these conveyors to cease their journey.
6 years ago, Kellingley's first winding tower was being built over the spot chosen for one of the two shafts.
50 years ago, this pit was expected to last 100 years, its lifespan effectively halved. Here today, old arguments dating back to the 80s have been raked over, old hurts that have festered, dragged into the light. Could this pit have survived in a different political climate, or did climate concerns and a glut of cheap international coal make it impossible?
Definitely let down by the government over the past 18 months. They kept promising us, never fulfilled the promises, just let us down from day one.
We've been kicked and kicked and kicked. Fear factor's gone. I don't know whether we're punch drunk or we're just happy to get on with it. They said if they drop the bomb, there's two lots of creatures that survive, cockroaches and miners. We've learned to adapt and we will survive.
Today, they've had a voice and they've used it. Tomorrow the cameras will be gone, the pit will be shut, and they'll have to start over. The one solace all will take from the last shift is that today everyone got home safe from the coalface. Danny Hewson, BBC Look North, Kellingley.
So how did we get to this position? How did we get to the position where there is still 30 million tonnes of coal beneath my feet, untouched, and a mine that has closed today? Also, the government is importing coal from abroad. Well, I'm joined now by the Labour MP, Yvette Cooper. What do you think about that? Do you think the government's done enough?
I really don't. I mean, we've been fighting for 2 years to keep this pit open. I agree with you, we shouldn't just be dependent on imported coal. And we have power stations close to Kellingley here, as well as huge reserves underneath. What we needed was support from the government 2 years ago to help us open the new faces, get the investment in place so you could get access to some of those new reserves. That was what they refused repeatedly to do. And then they've also refused to deliver a fair deal for the miners. The money that they did put in the end was just about saving the government the costs of having to close this pit themselves and keeping UK coal going long enough so that they got the taxes in. But who got the worst deal out of this? It was the Kellingley miners, who have kept this pit going, who have been loyal to the coal industry till the very, very end. And all they ended up with was the statutory redundancy pay. I don't think that is fair. They ended up with a worse deal than the miners under Margaret Thatcher.
You say that about the Conservative government, but the Labour government, they weren't whiter than white. 7 pits closed under the Labour government. Couldn't they have done something to stop decarbonisation at that point?
Well, we did things to stop some of the other pits closing, because I remember campaigning for that 15 years ago. We were campaigning, we were worried then that the coal industry would close completely, and the support then did help keep it going for longer. I also think what we really needed was clean coal technology, and we'd done something on that, but actually there was a lot more that still needed to be done now. But just a month ago, the government pulled the plug on the clean coal technology at Drax. That's really what we need, because you need to be able to support skilled jobs here in Yorkshire and cut carbon emissions, not just in Yorkshire, but right across the world. I think that clean coal technology would have been the key for us at Kellingley too.
I did speak to Nigel Adams earlier today, and he said that clean coal technology wasn't going to happen in time. It was going to happen in 10 years' time. That's not quick enough for this mine here.
Well, our argument here was that we needed to keep Kellingley going and keep supporting it, and that we could have done that if we'd had the investment early enough to keep the pit faces, to get the new access to the new reserves, and then all work towards that clean coal technology so that we've got the high-tech jobs that we can then export around the world. But for us here, we're a community that's been dependent on the coal industry. We've got an industry that's fired the furnaces of the factories right across the nation for so many years. So it is a really sad day to lose such an important industry as well as so many important jobs.
Thank you, Yvette. Thanks for joining us tonight. Well, it's over to Harry now, who is inside this building behind me, which is where the lifts go down into the mine shaft.
Outside, and
Harry.
I wonder if you feel it's almost a ghostly quieter at the moment. And with me is Sean McLaughlin. Can you tell me what would have happened on a day like today here?
Normally on a day like today here, there would be a hive of activity. There would be vehicles going into the mine along these rails. They take the materials into the mine. At what we call the next landing up, there would be the manpower going onto the cages, which take the mine 700 metres into the ground.
I mean, basically, they go down 700 metres, and then I'm told, is it a 5-mile trip?
It's 11 kilometres, yes, so it's a hell of a journey, and, an hour and 3/4 to get from here to the coal face.
Your job was to be manager of this. Now you've got a job to close it down. You have to really have a man management job as well with the men to make them understand the implications of what has happened today.
Yes, in the early days, obviously, it was very difficult, and, we all understand, we all want the best for the miners. They fought really hard to try and keep the mine open, but early then in the year, we realised that the mine was going to close. And, the guys have worked so hard. We set out on a plan to deliver a plan, and they've actually delivered the plan, so I'm really proud of the guys.
You say they delivered a plan. Am I right in saying that production's actually gone up this month?
Yes, the last 2 weeks, believe it or not, are the best 2 weeks for the last 2.5 years. It's just, so much credit. We can't give much credit to the workforce.
Is that something that they really wanted to do as well, to go out with a bang, really?
They wanted to go out on a high. They didn't want to see to be failing, and that's what they've done. So, credit to all the management team and to the workforce at Kellingley.
Sean, just tell me what your role is now over the next few weeks ahead.
Well, basically the next 3 months I'm here overseeing the closing down of the mine site. We'll cap the shafts, we'll put concrete plugs in the shafts, and then on the 25th of March this site will be handed back to the landlords.
And you've got to find a job as well?
I've got to find a job as well then.
Okay.
That's my priority in January.
Well, Sean, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. I know that normally you would have gone to the Christmas party, but
That's right, yes.
today was obviously a rather busy one for you. And Christmas parties, let's be honest, are normally very jovial affairs. Well, today's wasn't for very obvious reasons. Let me just tell you of a rather worrying irony that happened here. They announced the date of the Christmas party 9 months ago. Little did they know that that date would be the last day of deep coal mining here at Kellingley. Let's have a reflection, really, a snapshot of what happened today.
Bear with us. We're going to do as best we can to enjoy it. It is Christmas. It don't feel like Christmas.
The branch delegate. No real mood to celebrate on a day 450 people lost their jobs. The social club atmosphere was very down. This tradition is precious to the community here. Once they had 3 of these day after day.
I go in Pontefract Town Centre and I see all these young lads walking about with no jobs, and there's people at 65 plus still working. It doesn't make sense at all.
This is a whole industry. what we like for people that's gone. And as you said before, the knock-on effect, how it affects different people. You used to see one person working, he employs him with 5, 6 other people. Knock-on effect.
This has been going on as long as I've worked at Kellingley. Every year. I've been there 43 years. Yeah, there used to be 3 and 4 sittings of this, lasted 3 days. No, I think this is a swan song.
You really think that?
Yeah, I think so. The fat lady's finally sung.
One of the traditions of this lunch is that the committee mainly serve the meals. Real sadness for you today.
Yeah, it's very mixed emotions, Harry. It's a Christmas dinner, but it feels like Last Supper. It's all emotions rolled into one, but it's a tradition that we've done for years. They pass their mining skills on to us, and we wait on them today. It's something that we're going to carry on, hopefully.
Whether that happens is debatable, but what's not in question is the strength of the community spirit here in Kellingley.
This is what mining were about. It wasn't just a job. It was a community, it was a way of life. And that's the tragedy of today. Not just for the 450 men that's losing the jobs, but that it is, the end of an era and the end of a way of life. A way of life that, people's followed their fathers into the mines just like they followed their fathers. And that's not going to happen anymore.
Well, let's get more now from Chris Kitchen in the package. Obviously, you were a force to be reckoned with, weren't you, the N.U.M, and yet now you're looking after ex-miners, retired miners. What's going to happen?
But we will be trying to support them as best we can, which we've always tried to do. And, we'll do whatever we can.
Well, alongside you, we've got Andy Darrell, we've got Stuart Jackson, and we've got Mark Hooks. You've obviously just finished your last shift. Can I just ask you, Andy, how you feel about it?
Very proud to be the last people out of the mine, but also devastated. It's shameful, it's a disgrace what's happened, or been allowed to happen to the industry. How can it be possible to import coal that can be cheaper than we can get it just 7 miles from the power station? Very proud to be one of the last miners.
And I understand that production's actually gone up in the last month. I've just been talking to your manager. That's a sign of the professionalism that you guys have done day after day.
Yeah, the guys have been professional to the end. They've been in the mine today, they've produced this morning, and then we've had a comprehensive closure plan to make sure the mine's shut down safely. The guys have been in the mine and done that this afternoon, and then we've been round and done an audit to make sure all that work's been carried out safely.
Mark, there's so much coal underneath us, isn't there? Half a mile underneath us, but they're saying still millions of tonnes of really good quality coal down there.
That's right. When I first came here, they told me there were 30 million tonne down the mine. I thought I've got 20, 30 years, but unfortunately it hasn't happened, so life goes on.
The one thing that emerges from every conversation I've had with miners today is that they say, had it been a level playing field as far as subsidies are concerned, then there wouldn't have been an issue, because this would still have been rocking and rolling.
I certainly would, yes. You've seen the camaraderie today, you've seen the enthusiasm with the guys, even though they're saying goodbye to each other for the last time. These lads would have performed.
And what will happen now, guys? What will you do on Monday morning?
Well, I'm here for closure of the coal mine, so I'll be here to do the shaft capping. These guys will be looking for other work.
And what kind of work?
Well, first thing is we're going to have a good Christmas. Celebrate what we've done, what we've achieved, but then look for work in management, work in safety, the things that we're all good at, the things that we've excelled in at Kellingley.
Mark, I can see you smirking as to what you're doing on Monday. What are you planning?
No, I think I'll be going to job centre.
Yeah. And did you know today that this was going to be, that you were going to be the final miners coming out? Because I'm told that you didn't discover until you were under there.
For how we'd shut the mine down, and we've had that plan ongoing for a few weeks now. So we know what we're going to have today and how we'd shut the mine down and who'll be required.
It's a comprehensive closure plan, so we've had to keep it to ourselves. The lads have come, they've done the business, and then we've gone in just to make sure that the mine's safe, so that we can drain gas from it over the forthcoming years.
Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening. It's a little bit chilly now, we do appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. Well, you've only got to really look at other areas in Yorkshire which have lost their pits to see the devastating effect that that loss has on the economy.
That's right, it's not just the miners that we've been talking to today, but of course it's their families who are affected by this. It's their wives, it's their children, it's the wider community as well, because without them spending the money in this area, how are businesses going to keep afloat? Tom Ingle has been looking at the wider issues of this and what the future is ahead.
At heart, every pit closure is personal, not just for the men, but their families and their communities. In Kellingley, they will go out heads held high with a closure rally.
There's a lot of the guys that are preparing to, this time of the year, would be shutting down for Christmas, and then they would come back in the new year. So we thought it was really important that we needed to mark it, but we also needed to have a closure so that the guys can be there on the day and actually say goodbye to each other, because some of them won't see each other again.
When a pit shuts, and once the cameras, the attention and the men have gone, other contractors arrive. Hatfield closed earlier this year and is now being torn apart. The council have plans to bring new jobs to the villages in the area.
The Unity project basically is to develop out and provide new housing, new sort of industrial estates, lots more employment for the area, but it's going to be a sort of 5, 10, 15 year plan really.
The regeneration game certainly takes time. Grindthorpe lost its pit 23 years ago. Now windmills and warehouses stand in its place. In the distance are the sheds of the Cortonwood Retail Park. That was the site of the pit where the 1984 miners' strike began. Clearly there are hundreds of jobs there today, but they're very different from the ones that were lost when the pit shut. And the headgear would have been dotted right along the Durham Valley and in many other places too, because for great swathes of South and West Yorkshire, the story of coal is the story of the county. The pits dictated where the industry developed, where the communities were built, where the railways went, where the roads linked. Today, and it has been a very long time coming, a definite full stop has been written in that chapter of our history. The mines may be gone, but their influence still dictates our life in detail today. The question is for us, the planners, and the politicians we elect, what's coming next? Tom Ingle, BBC Look North, Cortonwood.
The truth is, we don't actually know what's coming next. We've been spending the day here and we've seen the miners coming out of the pit. We've been talking to them, talking about what they'll do next. And to be honest, they just don't know. It's a sobering thought, and it's also a sobering thought that we will never see these miners again. This is it. This is the end of the industry. Now, someone who's been covering this for the last 2 years, who knows it in and inside out, who knows all these buildings as well. She's been in amongst it. She's got coal running through her blood almost.
And in her hand.
And in her hand. Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the very last pieces of coal that they cut out today. And what a day it's been. I mean, just utterly emotional. And I have to say, one of the big things that stuck in my mind out of all the things that I've heard is several miners' wives have said the first thing that they're going to do is go out and buy white sheets because they've never been able to have white sheets because, of course, it's in the blood. And that is really very much what today has been about. Mining is in the blood of these guys. So it's not just a job for them, it's a way of life. And they're very much institutionalised, I think.
And they've grown up that way. You know, they've got fathers who were miners as well, haven't they? They've got mothers who were miners' wives, and perhaps they were expecting their own children to become miners.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got, in some cases, 3 generations. I spoke to one miner the other day whose dad, his granddad, his brothers, his uncles were all miners, and he used to come here as a kid, and they used to plonk him in the control room while they went off and sorted some stuff. So yeah, very much in the blood. And through this last week, what we've had, miners bringing their families here to get photographs, because of course they perhaps did want their kids to be miners. They will never get that, but in a few years' time they can get out those photos and say, look, you were there that day, that was me.
I've also got something special. This is an N.U.M tie.
You are honoured.
Given to me. That's as far as it goes, really, doesn't it? That's it. That says an awful lot as well. Danny, thank you very much indeed. We'll be coming back in just we still can't quite catch up with our weather at the moment. So let me ask you this. Tomorrow is going to be a significant time as well.
Yes, tomorrow is going to be a significant time because, of course, they've left here today without fanfare. That was the way that they wanted it. Some miners did turn up for their shift and didn't get to go down. The later shift they were expecting to go down today, so they're going to hold a march. It's been organised by the miners' wives, which makes it so very special indeed.
Danny, thank you very much indeed.
Tonight, of course, as we mark the end of an era.
Yes, it's certainly been an emotional day for the mining community. You could say a real day in history. Now, at its peak in 1984, there were 56 deep coal mines here in Yorkshire. Today, there are none. It's all over. Good night.
They told us we'd have a job for life, like, I mean, you've heard that tale before, haven't you? But obviously, powers that be have changed all that.
Brothers, father, grandfathers have all worked in industry. We've all had an exceptional living from it. It'll be sad.
34 years, just wiped out.
You can always say, you know, I'm one of the last deep coal miners in Britain, really.
I've done a lot of jobs down the peak over the years, and yeah, just worn out.
There's just nowhere else for them to go now. This is the end.
I'm dreading coming up for the last shift. The last lamp out, the last lamp in. It'll be heartbreaking for me, and it'll be heartbreaking for most of the boys as well. Sad times.